Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name's Mike Anastasia. With me today, we got Brandon.
Hello.
We're here to talk about games and things.
Games and things.
So it's on the agenda. More Switch 2 stuff. Steam Next Fest. I think those are the big things.
Yep.
Yeah, ready to get into it?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Where do you want to start? You want to go with your stuff first? Or
Yeah, I'll
you
go.
with
I'll
the
run
Switch
through
stuff
some of
first?
my demos I played from Steam Next Fest. I'll also
Okay.
explain to people what Steam Next Fest is, since I know I've mentioned it before, but I never really go into detail. So,
Yeah.
Steam Next Fest happens normally around June, the beginning of it, when E3 would be happening, and essentially a bunch of developers that want to share their games with people, like their upcoming games. Mostly it's indie titles, but sometimes you get larger AAA titles as well. They put up those same demos that are on the show floor at Summer Games Fest on Steam that you can just download for a limited time and play. So that's essentially what this is. So yeah, it's super fucking cool. I played a few games. There are a few that stand out, and I'll share those now. So the few that stand out that I played were Abyssus, which is a co-op roguelike shooter
Okay.
where you're essentially in this like fishing village. Like the whole thing kind of revolves around being fishermen, but it's like fishermen in a case of like I'm using harpoons to shoot like monsters and shit like that instead of using them to catch fish and whatnot. Although they do have like some kind of elements where the fishing aspects of the game play into it as well. You basically start up at this little fishing village and you adjust your guns and your weapons and your stuff, and then you get into the submarine and you submerge yourself and you go into this place called the Abyss, essentially, and then you fight through multiple like floors and do like a run like you would with any kind of like roguelike game, like Hades or what have you, that sort of deal, and then you come back up to your fishing village with whatever you've done at the end of that. It was very fun. This one was pretty simple, straightforward. It's kind of like your roguelike like you would normally have, again, a la Hades, that sort of deal, except instead of it being like a top-down game, it was a first-person shooter. And this one was pretty fun. I liked it. It came out of nowhere. I didn't even know about this one at all. Never heard of it. And I really enjoyed my time with this one. I think this
Okay.
one comes out in like August. So this one releases in like a month and a half or something. But the general like gameplay was really solid. I really liked that about it. So I'll move on from that one because I want to talk just about some of the more interesting games here.
Okay.
So Ascend to Zero. This is a fucking cool game.
Uh-huh.
Again, roguelike, action roguelike. This one's top-down twin stick shooter kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very neat twist to it, though. And the twist is at the beginning of this game, you and all of your friends, well, not you, but you see all of your friends get killed, and essentially the whole world is wiped out. That's what
Okay.
happens at the beginning of this game. Now, what happens after that is the person that like worked with you finds a way to send you back in time, and you get sent back in time, and then you have to find a way to save the people that died in the past, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you've been sent back to the past, and you need to kill you need to save the people that got killed, from where you just came from. So the way it works is you start a run with 30 seconds, and you have 30 seconds to level yourself up as far as you can. Again, we kind of got that Hades style going on here, but
Mm-hmm.
the way it works is before you start a run, you can use the XP or the money that you've gotten from your last run to
Mm-hmm.
do things like add more time to the amount of time you have to stay alive inside the world. So what you want to do is you want to go into the world, beat up a bunch of the kind of smaller enemies, try to get as leveled up as highly as you can, and then you're going to not win your first run no matter what. but you're going to want to do as much damage. You're going to want to kill as many enemies so you can get as much money and so you can get as much XP, so that when you do die and get sent back to the same hub world that you were at before, now when you go to start the next run, you can do something like start yourself at level 100 by using some of the XP that you got from the last round, or start yourself with an extra 30 or 50 seconds of being able to play in that world. And when you do that, it opens up all these other interesting things, because then you get these things like these abilities. So like every single character has an ability that activates like every 10 seconds on a hotbar, that sort of deal. And the ability, sometimes like after you've done your first run, the ability to be like activate this and it freezes time. So then you want to use that ability so you can keep as much time as possible. So you may like defeat all of the enemies in the room, and then you use your ability. What this will allow you to do now is pick up all that XP and all that money that just dropped from the enemies that you defeated. This also allows you to go on to the next room and see what enemies are there and what level they are, because every enemy will have a level above their head. And then you decide if that room is even worth your time. So if that room's not worth your time, you go on to the next one. If that room has like higher level enemies and you're like, oh yeah, I could take them with the weapons I have and the stuff I've acquired so far, that's when you would unfreeze time and then start fighting those higher level enemies, which would mean you skip those other enemies that were down below in the other room because they were just fodder and you didn't need them anyway, but you're able to go up to the next high level, and then so on and so forth. And it's all about managing your time by using your powers to freeze time and deciding when and where to fight enemies and when to avoid them, so that you can maximize your level and you can maximize your XP, so that when you lose, because your time will run out eventually, you could then go on back to the hub world and pay the money and the XP that you got to be able to start at, again, a higher level. So you like come back and you have a bunch of money, so it's like, all right, I'm going to go back in and do another run. I got a bunch more money than I did last time, and I can take this money and I can dump it into sort of like a skill set where you can like level up your skills, but instead you start your run by deciding like, am I going to start at a certain level? So if you do that, you could be like, all right, so I got a lot more money the second run, so I'm going to dump my money into levels. So I start this game now at level 500. So now I can run straight to the like not the final boss, but like the big boss rooms and fight those by freezing time and then just running through all these. I have all the time in the world. I go to the boss room that I need to, and then I unfreeze time, and then I can start fighting them because I'm already 500. So why would I fight these level 10s, 15s, 20s, 30s, 60s, that sort of deal.
Oh yeah.
When I have this level already. It is a super interesting concept because like as you're doing this, as you get like to be able to be higher and higher levels, you're able to go further and further into like the dungeons and stuff, and you unlock characters and save the people that died initially, and then when you save them, you can unlock them as playable characters, and sometimes those characters are going to be better than your starting character, and so on and so forth. This game's super cool. I like this one. There's no release date for this one, but it is a super interesting idea for a roguelike, because it kind of like cuts out a lot of the fat, to be completely honest. And it also makes you think of like how you're going to approach this before you even get into the mission. I posted a link to it if you want to see what it looks like.
Yeah,
it's a really cool game. But yeah, I liked this one a lot. This one was really fun. Again, I spent like an hour in this demo, so there's not a whole lot there, but I did get through the entire demo, which was super cool. And it is just a demo to give you an idea of how the game works. And I really liked it. I really, really liked this one. This one was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I'll move on to the next demo that I played, which is Hotel Barcelona.
Okay.
This demo had an incentive to play the demo, actually. The incentive was that if you take a picture of yourself beating the boss of the demo and retweet it at the publisher, you have a chance to win a varsity jacket signed by the two developers of this game.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, here is the cool thing, because this game is developed by my two favorite developers of all time. This game is developed by Swery and Suda51.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I did that. I went
Yeah.
through and I did the competition to see if I could win the varsity jacket because
Uh-huh.
I fucking love Suda and Swery. Swery is so fucking cool, one of my favorites. I don't know who won yet. I haven't actually checked, but it was a really cool idea. So let me talk to you now about how this game worked because this game was super interesting.
Okay.
At first, it was very, very confusing,
Mm-hmm.
disorienting, and borderline like bad because it explains nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this game plays like Dead Cells, sort of, but
Okay.
in an even more weird fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So the way this game works is you go from room to room, and before you move on to the next room, there'll be like a little door that says what this room will do. And when you go inside that door, it automatically triggers the effect that it says it'll do at the top. But then there's a middle effect that if you do a certain like quest in there, which you'll get once you go through the door, then you'll get that, and then so on and so forth. The thing that makes this game stand out is one, its art style, because its art style is very, very weird. Um, you're gonna get that with your Suda 51 games, your sweary games, that sort of deal. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just like really grungy. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the easiest way I can describe it. Kind of like a grindhouse flick, that sort of deal. But
Okay.
let me try to explain a little bit more of the gameplay because I already was explaining like the doors and how like you have the ability to read above like the doors. Like it'll say, oh, your BS meter will upgrade, which is blood. Oh goodness, what was it? Blood something. Oh my god, blood spillage, blood something. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
Okay.
uh, the point of it is you want to go through like 5 rooms to get to the boss room, and you also want to like defeat enemies because they drop like items and stuff, and you also want to go to like key points and break like things so that you also get these items. These items, after you lose a run, will be used to level up your character. You can level up things like their abilities to do more damage, more health, that sort of deal. Better blocking, better dodge, all that stuff, like what you get with those sort of games.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the interesting part, though. I think this is a really interesting part. So imagine something like Mario Kart
Mm-hmm.
and a ghost in Mario Kart, where you've done a race, and after you've done a race, you can then race against your ghost, and your ghost follows what you did in the last race that you did, essentially. And it's like a way of improving. Now, make that a central gameplay mechanic where after you fail a run, there's a ghost that is created once you start the next one, and the ghost is yourself from your last run, but they also do damage to all of the enemies that are there this run in that same position. And if you follow them, you and your ghost make it all the way to like the boss, then you're dealing damage with your character this run, but your ghost from last run. And you can use this as an element to kind of eventually, when you're able to level up more and have more of these phantoms, these ghosts exist in the run that follow your last run, you're able to sort of get a run that's good, get from point A to the boss, but then you failed the boss, you weren't able to kill the boss, but then you started over and you did another run, but you followed the same steps and you got to the boss, and now here's your ghost with you that also followed those same steps from the last run you just had, and so on and so forth. But you failed, but then you've leveled yourself up, so now you have 2 ghosts. So the 2 ghosts from the last 2 runs, they follow the exact same path that you did last time, and if you follow it as well, they follow you into the boss level, and you fight the boss, doing the damage from those 2 ghosts as well as doing the damage that you do this round. So you could kind of make it so you have like an army of your dead bodies, your ghost from the past that you've had of past runs that then can take down the final boss. And you're able to do a lot of damage if you be able to like get that far and progress that far in all of your runs, as well as the run that you need to like actually beat the boss. And it's a super cool and interesting idea, and it's really fun to play with because of the fact that you really do just do ridiculous amounts of damage when you're able to stack the different phantoms on top of it. It's really good. It's really, really good. I liked this game a lot once I figured out how to play it. But everything I just explained to you is never fucking explained to you, period, in the entire
a typical
game.
Suda and a typical Swery game then.
Yeah, and I really, really enjoyed my time with this one. This one I spent like, in the demo alone, I spent like 2 hours just playing the demo. I recorded the final boss fight, like getting to it and defeating him. And then I also obviously took the picture to try to win the varsity jacket because I really want the varsity jacket because those are my 2 favorite developers of all time that have signed something in a game that I really enjoyed and that isn't out yet, and I would love to win that. So, that's
cool thing.
That's where I'm at with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, this was the main game that made me want to play games in Steam's Next Fest because I saw the little competition they had going on for this one, and it made me very, very happy. And I'm like, I'm really excited to see if I win. Probably won't, but even so, I really enjoyed my time with the demo, and I'll definitely be buying it when the full game releases. It was a very fun and interesting little adventure. And I know I shared my video, and I shared like the screenshot and everything, and I shared how I was like really happy with it on social media, and I really enjoyed my time with it, and it was immediately liked by Swery, and I was like, oh, cool, neat, all right, cool. So my man still follows me, I guess. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'd say odds are probably in your favor too, because I can't imagine that, it probably has. I mean, it probably got some good traction from Steam Next Fest, but probably not like the highest demand demo of everything.
So there were a lot, and I mean a lot of people that put in for this one. Odds aren't necessarily in my favor, but I'm going to say there's at least like 3 or 4.
Well, I mean, I guess what I mean is comparatively to a lot of other contests.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm sure like there's probably a lot of like core gamers like us that are probably like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to get something from Swery and
Suda. Yeah, exactly. I gotta be so
on the other
happy.
side. Oh yeah, but probably on the other side, it's not going to be like Call of Duty fucking numbers or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's super awesome though. Hopefully you win.
I hope so too. If I don't, I mean, I'm still going to support this game when it releases because it looks fucking awesome. I might just beg Swery and Suda, please just do something for me, my guys. Come on, because and this is the rumor, at least the way I understand it from some of the stories I've read. I'm not 100% sure, but this game was actually concocted in my fucking state.
Oh,
because they met up at a convention called MomoCon, which is literally translates to peach in Japanese, in Georgia. In Atlanta, Georgia, that's where Swery and Suda met up and came up with the ideas for this game right before COVID hit, and then they worked on it remotely with each other during the during the pandemic. And then they met back up afterwards and continued working on it up to release, where it's coming together now. Essentially, the way I understand it is Suda worked on a lot of the story elements of it, whereas Swery is most of the gameplay elements, and that's how the two of them teamed up to work on this.
Okay. So,
yeah, I'm super excited for it because my man, those are my 2 boys. They're so good. I always love the stuff they do.
Yeah, they do always do at least interesting games.
Yeah, at the very least. But no, I love those developers. They're so good. Moving on from that, I'll talk about a few other things. I've played and finished a game that has been in the making for like 9 years. I played it originally when it came out in early access and never finished it. And then this last week, my whole friend group was like, no, we're finishing this game. We're just going to finish it now. It's like almost been 10 years. Let's do it. So I played The Forest again. And finished the entire game. And I mean, it's been like 9-10 years almost. So I'm just gonna let it rip. So The Forest is a survival game where you and a group of people if you're playing together, or just you if you're playing solo. Got into a plane crash on an island, and you got dropped there, and now you're trying to survive. But there's also some kind of weird, mysterious thing that happened, and the island is inhabited by cannibals for some reason, but also these like mutated creatures as well when you go deep into the caves and stuff. Think something like uh oh goodness, why can't I think of the name of that movie? It's like there were a bunch of spooky creatures when they went into the damn, hold on. Let me this is bothering me now.
If you could tell me more of it, I can try to help. I don't even know what you're reaching for because all you said was spooky creatures.
Yeah. Well, it's like The Descent. So like you think of that. You remember that horror movie, The Descent?
Vaguely.
Okay, so The Descent was like these fucked up creatures that survive in the darkness of caves and that sort of deal.
Right.
And this has kind of got like elements of that to it. And you're going through and trying to survive while also trying to find out what's going on and trying to find a way off of the island. We finished it finally, and we found out that the island was essentially a hub where the whole thing was set up, and they were working. They were like using people and working on them
Mm-hmm.
so that they could create like people that would never die, essentially.
Okay.
And that's where the failed experiments of that are the cannibals that are out there on the island that are trying to kill you and eat you and that sort of deal. Very, very fun game to play as just a survival game. And that's what we essentially did. We never finished it. We never did the plot elements of it. A lot of the reason was because we played it in early access. So not all the plot elements were in there during early access. But once it was, we never really went back. But we decided to just hammer it out, finish the whole fucking game in like 2 days, essentially. So we started up a new save, we started the game, and we made a beeline for all the plot points of the game to finish it in like 2-3 days. I think it was 2 days, it might have been 3. But anyway, it was super interesting finally finishing it and seeing how it ends. There is a canon ending, and we actually chose the canon ending. And the canon ending is essentially you find out that the things I just told you, that these people are being operated on, these people are being worked on. This is like a whole like government sort of deal, some shady organization that's trying to create everlasting life, or immortality. And they had a bunch of failures with and their failures are the monsters that you have come in contact with on the island. And they've been using people as like test subjects, and the way they would do that is they had this machine that would pretty much rip planes out of the air and cause the passengers of the planes, you're seeing what's happening now, like the reason why my plane crash landed is because they actually had a machine that could mess with the electronics of the plane and cause it to crash land on purpose on the island. And then these scientist people would swoop in and take the people that survived and then experiment on them and do all this horrible shit, essentially. And the whole game, you're searching for your son who went missing, but it turns out the scientists took your son and they've tried to make him something else. And you read something along the lines of how there was this one girl that was there that they were working with very closely, and that you kind of put 2 and 2 together and you decide my son is actually dead when you find him, because he is essentially dead. And so you use their machine that they created to use the girl that you've been reading about in these like notes that you've been finding throughout the lab area, and you hunt her down, and you use essentially her life core, her life essence to bring your son back from the dead, but doesn't really work out the same way you would expect. And he kind of has like one of those monsters that you saw on the island essentially inside him at all times, ready to get out. And when you go on this in like a final ending thing in the game, you go on this talk show to talk about how you survived on the island and whatnot, and they want you to show off your survival skills by like chopping with like an axe, and then like your son's like essentially glitching out, and then he like kind of goes crazy there. We don't see what happens, but then we get like a several years later flashback, and we wake up and you're playing as the son, and it's like, oh, okay. And then the next game is called Sons of the Forest, and I'm having a feeling that the son that you saved by using someone else's life to bring him back from the dead is going to be who the main character of that game is. But I don't know that for sure. But yeah, it was a very weird game, and the general plot points of it were kind of very oddly shoved in there at the end. So I don't know.
Okay.
I liked it
Well,
though. I liked it for the survival aspects of it. I thought it was a very fun survival game.
yeah, that part sounds kind of neat. I mean, I guess you'll see story wise, when you go to the
To
next
the
one. But
sequel, yeah,
yeah.
I'm not gonna buy it right now because it's like $40. I'll wait till
Oh yeah,
there's
too
a sale.
soon. Yeah.
I think that came out like 2 years ago. Like it's $30. It came out in 2024, so it came out last year.
Oh, so still new and fresh.
Yeah, and that one I don't really want to play until I know everyone can play it, because like Katie was playing The Forest on the Steam Deck, and it was already pretty demanding, but Sons of the Forest is like very, very demanding, and I know it's not going to run that well on the Steam Deck, so kind of waiting until she gets her computer back and set up. Talk about two other things here, last two things. Metal Gear Solid 5.
Mm-hmm.
I always had friends that made fun of me because I played pretty much almost all the way through the game and then quit towards the latter half of it and never played it again.
Which Metal Gear
And
5?
Metal Gear Solid 5.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one? There's only one Metal Gear Solid 5.
I thought they broke them out into the two different subtitle things, like
No,
the
no, no, no,
Phantom
no, 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 no,
Pain
no, no,
and the other
no, no,
thing.
no, no. Okay, okay, all right. Let me explain. Okay, I know what you're talking about. All right, I got you. So there are two elements to Metal Gear Solid 5.
Mm-hmm.
There's the actual game, Metal Gear Solid 5, and there's Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, which came out before the original game. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes is pretty much a demo slash technical thing that also has storylines that tie into Metal Gear Solid 5. This was like their demo for Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes was, but you had to pay for the demo. I'm playing actual Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay.
Which is the last game that Kojima made with Konami.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I started back up because I never finished it, and I had to start over from scratch because it's been several years, literally 10 years. So every time I stream it, it's like, this is 10 years in the making, and I've been doing streams for Metal Gear Solid 5 now for a few nights. Very interesting game because this is the open world Metal Gear game, or the semi-open world Metal Gear game, and it is so very Kojima, to the point where it's like everything makes sense but nothing makes sense at the same time, especially like with the opening where you're in the hospital and you get attacked by what looks like Psycho Mantis, and then the fire guy from Snake Eater. It looks like those characters. I don't know. I don't remember anything to do with this game because it's been 10 years. But they remind me of those characters, and they're just very, like, the whole intro is so Kojima is the easiest way I can explain it. It's very loud, very cinematic. There's a lot going on, but none of it makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's typical Kojima.
Like in the first 2 hours of the game, there's like an entire hospital scene with you leaving the hospital, and then you get saved by Revolver Ocelot, but then you get chased by the guy who was on fire, but then the like Psycho Mantis like character throws a flaming beluga whale at you, and it's just like, and then the flame guy comes running through on a flaming unicorn and chases you, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, that sounds like very Kojima. This stuff's all over the place. And honestly, some days he's not even that far away from Suda in terms of his craziness.
Oh,
At least I
definitely.
thought. Yeah.
No, I don't disagree there. I think Suda is just like, I'm 100% crazy, and then Kojima is kind of like, I am cinematic crazy, essentially.
Just yeah. That's a good way to put it.
But I really enjoyed my time with this game, and I'm like I said, I basically told my friend, hey, if we finish the forest, because it took so fucking long to finish the forest, then I will play through all of Metal Gear Solid 5. And now I'm on the Metal Gear Solid 5 train trying to finish Metal Gear Solid 5. And to be fair, it runs
Mhm.
very well. It looks still really nice for a game that released in like 2015.
Yeah.
And in general, the ideas that are here have not been replicated in any other game. So that's like super cool.
Yeah.
Because the entire purpose of the game is to like rebuild Mother Base while also doing these quests and everything that allow you to rebuild them using like the Fulton ability,
Mhm.
which is where like you knock out animals, you knock out people, and then you like put the little backpack on them that sends them up into the air and sends them back to your Mother Base.
Mhm.
And then you're able to use R&D to like craft weapons and items and stuff by the amount of people and the people's skill set that you capture. And honestly, it's super cool. I really do think this is a good game.
Mhm.
It's just, it's a very weird game. Um, Especially the opening. The opening makes like 0 sense.
Mhm.
And then when you like see the craziness that is the opening to that game, and then you go into a more grounded reality with you know, the way I just explained it. Um
Yeah.
it's just it's very jarring because I explained the flaming beluga whale flying through the air that got thrown at me, the like almost like psycho mantis like person that was stalking me in the hallway as I was escaping this place. The fact that they rejigged my facial structure and like made me into another person,
Mhm.
and they were like trying to hide that, and like the fact that it was like essentially a really dramatic, super crazy opening where like you had to like crawl through like the hallway and hide among the dead bodies so that they wouldn't shoot you because they think you were a dead body already. All
Mhm.
these really cool, interesting, and like borderline insane ideas for the opening of this game that is now 10 years old. Um, and then it just becomes like a open world sandbox immediately after, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Um, it's just very jarring, but the
Yeah.
open world sandbox element of it is still very good. It's just like I kind of want more because I played that first 2 hours and it was batshit insane and so much stuff was going on that it was like, can this just be the whole game? And it can't, and it's not. And as such, it does feel very disjointed in a way. But I don't think it's necessarily bad because it makes me want to continue to play and see like why the fuck did that happen in the first place. And I am doing that because I already promised I would finish the game anyway. But like, even if I didn't, I would still want to know what the fuck was that first 2 hours. I would want that explained to me,
Yes. No, that's understandable.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Good luck
I
trying
believe
to
that's.
understand Kojima sometimes.
Well, so I'm doing this for my friend, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And because he likes this game a lot, and he's always wanted me to finish this.
Mhm.
And now I'm finishing it on stream, like for him and whatnot. But like I was like talking about how this made no fucking sense, and he said, "I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it will before you finish the game." I was like, "Okay, then, all right,
Fair enough.
that's fair enough, I guess. All right, have a nice day, you
Yeah.
know." So that's essentially where I'm at there. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it a lot so far.
Yeah, I think it's I was just thinking the other day, I don't know what it was. I think I saw some of the old ones on sale and I was like, "Oh, I should go back through
The old ones are
and
on sale right
revisit
now,
those."
actually.
Huh?
Old ones are on sale right now,
No,
honestly.
I know. I think that's exactly why I was thinking about it. Because I did see that they're all on sale. But part of me kind of wants to there's a part of me that's silently optimistic that maybe we'll get Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes on the Switch. Maybe.
Oh.
And that would
I
really get
wouldn't
me excited.
say we would anytime soon because here's the deal.
Mhm.
I think it'll be part of the Metal Gear Solid Volume 2 collection? Because they released that Volume 1 collection
I
remaster.
thought they already announced the games for Volume 2.
They have not even announced its existence yet,
Oh,
other
really?
than the rumor of it existing. And that if it does exist, it will have Metal Gear Solid 4, which will be the first time that game has been re-released ever. So yeah, that's all we literally know. We don't actually know a date. We don't know what the game list would be. We have, at least from the rumors, that it would be something like MGS4, Peace Walker, that sort of deal. But I
Yeah.
don't think that game will be touched like Volume 2. I don't think that will even be talked about or anything until they get out, the new Metal Gear Solid 3 remake that comes out in like 2 months. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Or even something maybe to go along with that for, kind of
I'm
hype or whatever.
expecting Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which comes out in like August,
Mhm.
to be the game that they release around August, and then for December it'll probably be Volume 2 collection.
Yeah. I don't think I would be surprised if they stuck Twin Snakes in with like 4 and Peace Walker if those were, because you figure those are probably like presumably the safest bets of things that might be on there.
You would
Um
or wouldn't be surprised?
I would be surprised if they stuck it with that because it seems a
Mm.
bit mm, it doesn't seem to fit with the rest of them. Um
So my takeaway is Volume 1 had, if you got the volume instead of each separate game, you
uh-huh.
got the original Metal Gear games as well, like the
Yes.
MSX ones. So
Hmm.
my thoughts were, if you get the full collection, then it would probably have something like Twin Snakes and maybe like Metal Gear Acid or something.
I would say Acid seems like it'd be a better fit.
Mm.
There's another. What was the other? That wasn't Peace Walker. What was the other one? Wasn't there
Portable
another?
Ops.
Yes, I
Yeah.
could also see that being the other one as well. But I guess we'll see. I kind of think my thought is because Nintendo is very strange about their stuff,
Hmm.
obviously, and because they had a part in development for this.
Hmm.
My thought is they'll probably just be like, it seems like it's a ripe game because
It
of
could
the
be an
licensing issues.
exclusive to the Switch 2 version if they release it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if it's a strange game because of the licensing issues between,
Hmm.
Konami, Nintendo, and Silicon Knights that it might just be easier to just be like, hey, you know what? Let's release it on the virtual console or whatever. And whatever they want to call it, and NSO. And kind of just use it as like advertising and get some extra money that way. Because the other side is you could release it as something like that. You don't have to worry about distributing it. Some fans have questions about, I feel like it's a very maligned like Metal Gear Solid game. Like I'm surprised, but some people just absolutely hate it. Um, and then just kind of be like, hey, you know what? Check out all the rest of them on the sale. And also too, it'd be kind of nice to be like, oh, you know what? Check out Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. Like
Mm.
they could also use it for something like that. Because I was thinking about the same thing with like Soul Calibur 2. Like it's kind of one of those strange things. It's like, what incentive did like Namco have to put that out on NSO? And you kind of think about it, it's like, A, they're never going to be able to release that game as like a remake, um, because of Link in there, and that's kind of the big feature of it. So put it out for free, and then it might drive people to other Soul Calibur games or other Namco fighting games.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
um, yeah, it really kind of just depends on what value they kind of see in it. So interesting.
Yep.
Hmm. We'll see.
We will indeed see.
Yeah. What else you
I
got?
kind of I kind of hope. I got nothing else. I know
Uh,
you're going to be talking about one of the other games, so I'll hop in when you talk about that. So
yeah. Okay. What were you gonna say? Did you have anything else?
I was going to say,
Otherwise?
thinking about it, right? Like I was saying before, I do think it makes the most sense to not even talk about Volume 2 until after Delta comes out. But also,
Yeah, probably
I
at
don't
this point
know
they're
if Delta
looking
would
everything
be a
up.
game that gets released on Switch 2 right away.
Probably not if it hasn't been announced yet.
It has not been announced.
Yeah.
But
So
they could be still sizing up the system, see how it works. Because here's the thing: if Cyberpunk works on Switch 2, I could definitely
mhm.
see Delta working on Switch 2.
Yeah, I think so. That makes a lot of sense. And like we were talking about, kind of in the lead up to the system,
Hmm.
it seems like the Switch 2 is at least beefy enough that, with some adjustments to settings, like it probably can run a good chunk of the stuff that's on the market today.
I really do think that they can. I've seen now a lot of the work that went into the Switch 2 and
Mhm,
how a lot of the games run on the system. And I'll say things like Cyberpunk do hit very low lows
mhm,
in like the big, huge major area. Like, for instance, the DLC part, the big, super expansive and difficult to run part of the DLC will drop to like the low 20s in
mhm.
some cases, especially when traveling via car. VRR kind of cleans that up some, but not enough to be able to be like, hey, nah, I can't really do that. But that is
Yeah.
showing what the max
Mhm,
of the Switch 2 is, but also showing what it can do that the PS4 can't do, which means because that DLC isn't on the PS4 version of the game. And I think that when you look at things that way, then you're able to be like, okay, well, now I see the things that the Switch 2 can do better than the system that they said the Switch 2 is comparable to. And there are quite a few things that you can point to that the Switch 2 does better than the system that it's supposedly up against. And obviously, it's because of DLSS.
yeah.
And I do think when you look at that and then think about it, that we'll see a lot more games this generation run on the Switch 2 that wouldn't have last generation. So I think Switch 2 will be very comparable in some cases with the games that get released on it, but it will be a case of resolution downgrade, frame rate downgrade, that sort of deal.
Yeah, lighting
But
downgrades, like those kind of things.
but I do
Yeah.
think that the game will run and it will be fine on the Switch
Mhm.
too when it comes to things like that. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like I said, Cyberpunk's pretty beefy, so for them to get at least pretty functional, especially too, I guess
so
I'd read
here's the thing.
somewhere apparently they got it onto the system in 9 months, which is pretty
The
impressive.
the default part of Cyberpunk, like
Mhm.
the part of it that's just like the main base game and not the DLC, it
Yeah, I
runs
heard that runs pretty
phenomenally.
well.
It's
Mhm.
perfect, like in all honesty. It runs great. But then you look at something like the DLC and it's like, okay, well, then that's where you meet you know, the maximum quality that you can have for the Switch 2 and where
Yeah, run
things
into
dip
the
down.
issues. Mhm.
Yeah, that's when you run into things, and all the issues are because of the CPU,
Mhm.
which at the end of the day, if it had a higher CPU, it would have been totally fine. It would definitely be able to run all this shit. So, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. But I also think that this is a element where the Switch 2 would be able to be worked on some to have things be more like it. I think in the future, as people use the Switch 2 more, they'll find ways to get around these sort of limitations better.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think so. It's still new, so give it some time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
That's it. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'll move on to my things then.
All right.
Yeah, so it's all Switch stuff for me this week. I'll switch to.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's talk
So,
about
so one thing actually I kind of wanted to ask about from last week, and I heard it when you said it when
it.
we talked last time,
Hmm.
and I didn't. I was like, oh, maybe I misheard it, but then I definitely heard it when I was doing editing, like the episode last week. Do you not love the music from Mario Kart?
No, no, no. I did not say that I don't love the music from Mario Kart.
Oh,
I
okay.
said, in fact, I think I actually said during that the music is one of the best parts of Mario Kart. Uh,
You did say that, but then there was a comment, and I think, and I can't quote it, so I
mhm.
apologize because I don't remember what it was. But it kind of seemed like you were trying to make a point about the gameplay, and you were said something about it comparing it to the music, but it kind of made it sound like the music wasn't that great.
No,
And
no, 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 no.
I'm
Very,
like, I don't think
very
that's what
misunderstood.
Brandon meant, but
Very, very misunderstood. If that's the way you took it. No, I think the music is phenomenal in the new Mario Kart. I can't think of a bad track in the entire game, to be completely honest.
yeah,
And I
because
just
I think
wish
my
that that
takeaway since
level of
like
quality carried on to other elements of the game is what I was trying to convey, but I guess I
I
didn't
figured that's
convey it
what it
well
was.
enough.
It seemed like it
Yeah,
just came out strange, and I was like,
yeah, no.
I need to roll. I need to follow up with Brandon on this
No,
week because
no,
I'm like,
this is a good follow up because I will say this: I think the music is the absolute best part of Mario Kart World, as well as Knockout Tour. I think Knockout Tour is my favorite thing about this game. I keep playing Knockout Tour even though I've already finished the entire game, but I keep playing Knockout Tour because it's just so fucking fun. So
yeah. So for Mario Kart, I will say I do think the music's the best part of the game, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
yeah.
But like the soundtrack
No,
for
the
this
music's
game is
phenomenal. There's
it's
two soundtracks that have come out this year that are already phenomenal, and that's Clair Obscur Expedition 33
mhm.
and Mario Kart World. Two very very different soundtracks. That's like
Oh yeah.
putting fucking like the soundtrack to Nier Automata up against a fucking Pokemon soundtrack or something.
Mhm.
It's like that level where it's like yeah they still have really really good music, but like one is a very different kind of music, but I think both here shine like exponentially. Like fucking Clair Obscur Expedition is probably one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a very fucking long time, maybe since Nier Automata.
Mhm.
And Mario Kart World is also absolutely incredible. It's just a joy to listen to all of the music in that game.
Yeah, there's
It
so many
is
surprises.
and
Um,
and it flows very well. I don't think I explained that enough either, but like when you travel from like one area to the next and you have those in between moments before you get to like the next like area that's actually a map that you're racing through,
mhm.
the way the music changes and flows is very very well done, but
Yeah, it's pretty
it's just
seamless.
yeah, but everything in between there is just kind of dull. You know what I mean? Like going
Yeah.
from it's kind of a little jarring
Mhm.
when you're like out in the world area that's just like the nothing, as I like to call it, the literal this is open world fodder before you get to the next track.
Mhm.
Yeah, that that music is that's the jarring part because when you go from that to the next thing it's like okay it flows very well but like the music sometimes doesn't fit the open world as much. I don't know how to explain it. The open world music's a little bit weirder where it doesn't really have a theme. It's good music, but then when you flow that music into the actual track theme, that's when it's like, oh, this shit's good, like real good.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say honestly, I think Mario Kart World, it is, I would say top tier soundtracks,
Hmm.
like GOAT tier. Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible. There's
Please, when you have a chance, listen to Clear Obscure Expedition
I've
33.
heard bits and
Just the
pieces of it.
soundtrack. Just the
Yeah.
soundtrack. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, no, Mario Kart though it has like things I like. A lot of it because we really didn't talk about much why it's great, but if you're a Nintendo fan, like a lot of the tracks you'll find pretty familiar. They pulled from stuff from pretty much every Mario game that's ever
Yeah,
existed.
absolutely.
Um, so they do that, but a lot of the music's done more kind of like what they were trying to do it in some places with Mario Kart. Really a lot of like either like jazz music, big band, or like folk music kind of like feel like vibe to a lot of it. So some of the songs it's like genre changing. Like you might get something that normally would have been kind of like a poppy song and it might be more of a jazzy song now, which is kind
Hmm.
of cool. But then you have some stuff that fits really well. I've seen people raving about the oh my freaking god, what is it? Why can't I think of it now? What's the third level in Mario Brothers or not Mario Brothers? Mario 64. Um, what is that song? Uh, um, begins with the D. Is it Dry Dry? Oh, Dire Dire Docks. There we
Dire
are.
Dire Docks. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's a song I don't particularly like in Mario 64, honestly. I find it to
Hmm.
be kind of like too slow, kind of like mellow, which is fine. It's water levels. I feel like that's typical like water music.
Hmm.
But what they do with this song, just incredible. It's just got like a great like melody, then the harmony like kind of goes along with it. The Mario Paint songs in this,
Hmm.
fantastic.
Oh my
Those
god,
are both
yes.
great.
Yes.
I like both of those a lot. Like I ended up downloading this whole soundtrack. I know I said it to you guys the other day. but yeah, it's excellent. I still say I've not found a single bad track in this game. Honestly, I've had Mario Kart. I've been playing Mario Kart for like all weekend, and by playing, I mean I would just turn it on, and then I would just go to the map screen and just let it play music, and that's what I was
Hmm.
doing. So I'd be going around, and then I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should do it in a more practical way. And I'm like, let me just get the soundtrack. Yeah, I just like I said, it is phenomenal. So I wanted to kind of like circle back around and just talk how incredible it is. Because I like I said, there's just so many songs that I've just found that I've like just really, really enjoyed. And like some like really obscure choices in there too. Lots of Mario Land music, which is something that I feel like
Yeah,
never
I
gets
noticed that.
remixes.
I noticed that.
Yeah. hmm And that stuff's all awesome. Yeah, like there's great stuff from top to bottom. As for Mario Kart World in terms of gameplay, like I went through, I unlocked mirror mode this last week, which was a slog. Like finding those stupid Peach medallions, like literally was just beyond frustrating. Like I just don't like looking around for stuff like that. So but I unlocked it and then I promptly did not even try a single race in it. So I was like, okay, cool,
Mm,
done. I did finally try knockout mode online, which was fun. So there was that. I think I got second on my first race, and then I got knocked out somewhat earlier. I got knocked out like eighth place in the second one. It's a bit chaotic, I will say for sure. A lot more chaotic than it is playing with like say computers. Just because there's shit flying all over the place. Um, and like you'll do well, and then all of a sudden you'll just get like knocked around like three, four times. And it'll be like, the reason I ended up losing the one time is I was like in second place, and all of a sudden you just get hit by one thing, and then like four people just collide into you, and next thing you know, you're like 16th, and you're like, oh, goodbye.
yeah, that
Um,
happens.
yeah, it's the chaos of Mario Kart. Not too much you can do about it, except hey, it is what it is. So, there's that. I do hope that this game gets some more like content and expansion with it, but I do think at least in my mind, comparatively to like baseline Mario Kart 8, I do think this is like a better kind of
Hmm.
start from where it is because obviously Mario Kart 8 had quite a bit of build up over like the 10 years it was kind of around.
Yeah,
Because they had like basically two expansions, and the second one doubled its tracks from initial. So I think it's likely that we will see some extra content in this game, just when they feel like telling us. Who knows? I bet though they'll
gotcha.
probably at least give a little bit of a hint maybe later this year, in their kind of fall direct, kind of see where things are. They'll be like, oh, billions of you have been playing Mario Kart. We got some new stuff on the way. So that will be nice. But yeah, I at
I
least
don't
kind of
know if it'll be that early. I don't think we'll get
um
anything new until like next year.
I don't think we'll get the new stuff this year. I think they'll announce it this year.
Oh,
That's
okay.
kinda what I'm thinking. Nintendo, at least they are pretty predictable with kind of end of life support for games.
Yeah,
So generally they'll support a game after release for about 2 years. So,
I now have the
um,
whole Mario Kart World soundtrack.
like I said, there's a lot to go through and a lot of surprise. Like, there's no way I've heard every song in there. It's like 13 hours long. There's that much music. Like, there's a ton. So,
Well,
um
I found the official one, and I don't think the
mhm.
official one's 13 hours long.
Okay. Yeah, the one that I use, it had, I think, some extra stuff too, but it seemed
Hmm.
like it was a nice variety to it. Anything else I want to say about Mario Kart World? No, I think that's it. I have been using a lot of the Pro Controller a lot more now, though, since last episode. So I have a lot more familiarity with it. I think it is a pretty solid controller. I actually like it a lot. I've really gotten to enjoy the programmable buttons. I found them to be pretty useful. I think the one
Okay.
thing that I've used quite a bit is I kind of realized that you can use it, say, like with Mario World, Kart World, for
Yeah.
example. I'll use the left kind of programmable button on beneath my left hand to do like the A button, for example. So that way I can keep on going and use the right stick. Because one thing that is unique to this game is you actually can shoot shells, for example, in directions that are not just straight and backwards. You could use the camera and you can shoot the shell in different directions. So it kind of aims based on which way you're looking in terms of the camera. So that is kind of one nice thing about having it off there, because that way you can take your finger comfortably off the A button and kind of move the stick around and not lose momentum. So things like that, like for Breath of the or not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, same thing basically. But I'll use it for like the B button so I can keep running without having to keep my finger on that button and on the
Mhm.
controller, which makes it so I can run and jump very comfortably at the same time, which is something you could kind of claw yourself into doing before, but now
Yeah.
it's pretty easy. Um, so those things are really nice. All you have to do to program it, which I think is awesome, you just hold the home button to pull up that kind of sleep side menu. You know which one I'm talking about. Um, and then once that's up, all you do is just press the GR or GL button and press what you want to program into, and that's it. Like no extra menus, no like that. It's literally just part of that like thing where it's just like trying to put the console to sleep. Like it's so I've never seen a programmable controller so easy before, because it's literally like zero extra steps. Hold home, press the button you want to program, change it to what you want to, close the menu. That's it. Like no fucking around. That's it. Another thing that I think is really nice about this too is it does it's programmable on a game to game basis and a profile basis. So if I am playing Mario Kart and Tears of the Kingdom with this controller, like I am, my program buttons are different between each one, and it saves them between the games. So I don't have to go through and reprogram it every time I play a different game. So that's great. Other thing that's nice is say if like someone else wanted to use that controller and they wanted to play Mario Kart and they wanted to use different buttons, they can program their own programmable buttons for it too. So they don't have to go through and use mine or change mine. Like it's all like person to person, game to game, which is fucking awesome. That's really nice. Um, so those are all great features that are there with that. So that was really good. And it seems to have really solid battery life too. I think the other one did as well, honestly. But this one doesn't even seem like it's moved even a millimeter since I've been using it. So um, yeah, that's all great. So that's excellent. What else did I want to say about the Switch 2? I've been playing more Tears of the Kingdom, so I've gotten to play a lot more of that. I did
Okay.
talk briefly about Zelda notes. I still think it's pretty cool just to kind of have it up on the side as you're playing. Required? No, but I find a lot more value for it than I expected to. Um, so actually the other day I was using it for like a because sometimes if I'm just kind of wandering around and I see that there's say like a shrine nearby, I'll just like I'll be like, oh, give me navigation so I can just kind of walk around and do that. So I did it, and I'm kind of like I'm following around. I'm doing one bad thing, which is I was like looking at the map and trying to follow around like my direction with the map,
Mhm.
but the game kept on yelling at me because it'd be like I'd look and it'd be like it looks like the shrine is north of me, but as I try to walk toward it, the game would be like go south, follow direction, like basically like you're going the wrong way. And I'm like, no, I'm walking right towards it. But then as I get there, I'm like, it's not here. And I'm like, it must be one of those hidden shrines. So then I'm like, all right, let me listen to what's actually telling me. And then I look at the map and there's like another point that it put highlighted on the map that was not the
Uh,
shrine. And I'm like, okay, well, let me go there. It's a cave. I'm like, okay. So it's trying to give me directions to the cave so I can get into where the shrine is. And that's pretty cool. So at least it kind of takes those things into account. So that's really nice. Other things that it does too, which I think we didn't really talk about as much last week, but um, for every amiibo that you scan in, it kind of registers that, so it kind of keep track of them and kind of log them, versus each other. So that's pretty nice. And if you scan an amiibo 5 times, over time it will give you a free extra daily scan, which is pretty neat. Also, too, you do get like a free daily reward. When I had spun it up yesterday because I tried it for the first time, it seemed like a lot of like meal um bonuses, kind of things. Like the bonus I ended up getting was like extra damage in cold areas. That's cool, but I wasn't in any cold areas to use it. So there was all that. What else is in the Zelda notes app? Obviously, the voice notes that we kind of talked about; those are all there. Also, interestingly, it has kind of like because it does have a feature where you can share like designs for like your built items
mhm.
between people, which I thought was kind of cool. But the one thing I was like, oh, you can share items in between people, and when I looked at it, I just figured it'd be like, oh, let me send a quick bonus, like, oh, Brandon's playing the game, let me send him a quick bonus, with some healing items or whatever. Okay, nope, it's not what I expected. It is you literally taking items from your inventory and giving them to someone else.
Oh,
So it's not just like, oh, let me send you a quick bonus. It's no, these are literally items from my inventory that are being removed and being added into your inventory. Like or vice versa. Like you could take things out. It's basically like giving someone else the access to your bank account and be like, I trust you won't do anything too terrible with it,
yeah, that's
but if you
pretty
want to help
shit.
me out, that's there you go. With some people, I'm sure it's totally awesome. With other people, yeah, bless your heart. Um, so yeah, so that's all kind of all neat features there.
Mhm.
Also interestingly, well, not interestingly, I still say I've gotten through like 1.5 dungeons at the point. Game runs really well. It runs like liquid smooth. Also, I think this week with the Switch 2 has kind of proved maybe one of your theories true. And
Yeah.
that's that a lot of my um, disregard for frame rates has to do with the fact that I've not really used 60 frames per second that
Uh,
regularly.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, so I did notice, like, because pretty much everything I played on the Switch 2 has run at 60 frames a second.
Yep.
But then I decided to try Age of Calamity the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed the frame rate issues instantly. Like
Finally. We're
there's
finally
no
here.
like yeah,
We're
there's
finally here.
no messing it. Like I'm like, oh yep. I'm like, oh yeah. This is definitely a not a solid frame rate, and it's jumping all around the place. But I was thinking about it, and it kind of makes sense. It's like, obviously the difference between 30 and 60 frames a second,
Yes.
pretty significant in the grand
Yes.
scheme of things. You're doubling frames. Whereas,
Absolutely.
something that might be, say, capped at like 30 and slides down to like 20s,
Yes.
not a huge difference. Because
No,
you're
but
talking about,
the input latency that you would feel from playing that is still a huge difference.
oh
That's
yeah,
that's my
mhm,
takeaway when it comes to that. Like you'll definitely notice the input latency when it comes to something like dropping from 30 solid frames down to like into the 20s or in the 19s or something. Because it's a big drop. Like that that's a big drop for even though you were only running at 30 to begin with. But like you're not going to notice that drop as much as you're going to feel that drop, and then
mhm,
that's when the problems come in.
yeah. And I think at least the kind of the noticeable a bit for me is like really just kind of like the drastic difference between the two
Hmm.
now. Because I think before it's not like these are the first 60 frame per second games that I've played, but it's the most consistently I've played them.
If you
Because
want to
everything I've
see
played,
a
mhm,
huge difference
mhm,
on your Switch 2,
mhm,
play Tears of the Kingdom, and then on your original Switch, play Tears of the Kingdom, and you'll be like, "What the fuck? How
yeah,
was this
I could always
playable?"
do that. So. Well, I'm not worried about going back through old stuff and retreading old things. I can just say I can see the difference now. How much it affects me, I'm not sure yet. I
Yeah,
only played like maybe like
I think
five
I think as
minutes
you
of
get
Age
more
of Calamity.
used to like
Hmm.
60 FPS, you are going to start to be like not really a frame rate snob because that's not the way I would say it, but you're going to realize a lot more of the downsides to 30 FPS versus 60, and you're
Probably.
going to see when going from one to the other a lot of the negatives because you've now spent more time with a game that's running at like a solid 60 FPS, that sort of deal.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I will see. We'll see what ends up happening
Now,
with it.
now
Who knows?
I want to put this into perspective, right? Because I
Hmm.
play on PC. So take that 60 versus my 165 or 240.
Yeah, it's overkill.
It's overkill, but I think you can understand at least a little bit. I'm going to just like be frank with you, right? When
Uh,
you get past like 144, there's no real difference outside of like big first person shooters that require like twitch reflexes. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
Call of Duty, like CS:GO, like those sort of games. There's no real difference when you get there. But I think the sweet spot for like PC gaming for me personally is 1440p, like 120, and there's a very big difference between 120 There's a very big difference between 120 and 60 FPS, and much like you're feeling now, the 30 FPS and 60 FPS, I think when you do experience those 120 FPS, because that is also something that the Switch 2 has been said to be able to do.
Yeah,
I
Metroid
think
Prime.
once you see that, you're going to be like, damn, okay. I think that's when it's going to finally click, and you're going to be like, okay, I understand now. Like that, because I do think anything over like 120, it's kind of negligible unless you're playing something like very highly competitive. Like I said, like a highly competitive first person shooter, that sort of deal. But
Mhm.
anything that is over 60 FPS is very noticeable if you can get that like 120 or like even like 100 FPS. Very noticeable compared to 60 FPS. It's a very noticeable difference. Mostly with fluidity of animations and how responsive everything feels when you are in the moment of said game.
Mhm. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see what ends up
But
happening. You know,
60 to 30, I'm really glad you're finally seeing it, to be completely honest.
yeah, I figured that's why I brought it up. Um, yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how much it ends up affecting me kind of in the long run. I only, like I said, I only tried it with one game and it was for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I'm not in the mood to play this right now anyway, so I just kind of
Hmm.
ducked out and went on to something else. But we'll see, because obviously I have other things on the Switch, and kind of depending on what I end up playing, I might
Yeah,
end up
exactly.
running into more
Exactly.
stuff. So yeah, we'll see. But there's
I
that.
think I think
Otherwise,
Tears of the Kingdom is awesome at 60 FPS. I am finally able to enjoy that game now because I it was just so difficult to enjoy that game on the original Switch because it just felt like I was fighting with it every single time I played it. So
I think my favorite part about, honestly, I think more of the bigger thing for me is honestly like the improved load times. Like you really don't notice how much time you wait around until it's like go into a shrine, wait like 5 minutes, die, like wait 5 minutes. It's not 5 minutes, but you know what I mean. Like there was a lot of load times, and now like the load times are so fast you can't even read like the tips that they give you, because it's just kind of like just flies right by. So
yeah,
um
that's very
yeah,
true.
it's very seamless. Like the graphical effects all run really well. Yeah, it's a lot more smooth to play for sure. Um, I will say though, just kind of Tears of the Kingdom versus Breath of the Wild kind of comparison. I do think
Hmm.
that Tears of the World, or Tears
Tears
of
of
the
the Kingdom.
Kingdom,
Hmm.
has the better world to kind of explore. I feel like it's just kind of there's more to do. They kind of fleshed out the world building and the activities that are available to you a lot better. But that said, I think that Breath of the Wild's probably the better game in the long run.
Hmm.
Because I like the idea, because you think about it, like Breath of the Wild kind of wakes up and you're like, don't know what the fuck's going on. I like died, and then I was kind of resurrected, and the world's kind of in shambles compared to where I left it, 100 years ago.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like what's going on, and kind of like kind of that narrative of kind of exploring, and also giving you the ability to do as much or as little preparation before you go to the final boss, at the start of the game. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom's like kind of just a continuation of that story, where it's like, okay, well, now we know the world, and now we're kind of rebuilding. So it's not like it's a different experience. It is a different experience because you're going through with the mindset of, you know what, we know that these things are here, and it's just kind of, it's not as fresh, and the story is just kind of like, and Zelda fell back in time and took the Master Sword, figured it out. Like, I don't know.
Hmm.
Like, it's very different. But I do think it's good, and I do think they're both good games for different reasons. I just think that, overall, I think Breath of the Wild's, I think, probably, in my mind, the higher rated game of the two. But I think Tears of the Kingdom does, like, a lot of really incredible stuff. And especially if you're more into, like, kind of that tinkering and exploring around, like, you can do some wild stuff with the building mechanics. So, that stuff's all really neat. But kind of depends on what you're looking for. Um, a lot of times I forget about the abilities that are like in Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm like, I'm stuck here. What do I need to do? I'm like, oh yeah, I can ascend up here. That's what I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, I can rewind this thing here. Whereas I feel like the tools in Breath of the Wild are kind of just more straightforward, because you're like, oh, I got bombs. Oh, I can move this magnet thing. Those kind of things. So um Yeah, it's all, but they're both great games, and I've really been enjoying going back to Tears of the Kingdom again,
Hmm.
especially with Zelda Notes. I feel like that adds so much more to it than I expected to.
So now that you've been able to
Um,
hear more from Zelda Notes, do you think they do use AI voices in it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Originally, I thought yes. Now I'm kind of no. Uh, TBD. It
Okay.
sounds too good to be like for the navigation. Yes, like that's like that because that sounds just like Siri.
Hmm.
Where it's like follow the route or whatever, kind of like it's like a GPS kind of thing. Um, but when it's like Zelda talking or the other people that give you notes. It sounds just like the actor. It seems too good to be AI. There was some ones where I'm like questionable, but it may have just been like the intonation that they were using. I don't think that it is overall. So, um, and some of the stuff that they have in there, it's interesting because it's like I said, it's world building stuff, but it's not like serious world building stuff. It's kind of like I said, just kind of like little details here and there that you're like, oh, interesting stuff. Not anything you necessarily need to know, nothing that necessarily adds anything to your experience like that second while you're playing, but it's kind of like gives more context to what you're exploring through. Um, Kind of reminds me a lot of kind of like going to a museum where you're like you go and look at ruins or something and you're like, well, what did they do here? And then Zelda will kind of chirp in and be like, this was a church and we did this stuff here. And you're like, oh, okay. I see what these ruins are now. So okay, makes sense. Yeah, I like that kind of aspect of it. So I think that stuff's all pretty neat. Um, so yeah, I like I said, I really like the stuff that's there. So I think it's pretty good. I would like to check out Breath of the Wild with the Zelda notes as well at some point, but there's no way I can play these games back to back. I'll go insane. So that would be some time down the road. I'm sure I'll go back to it, but not anytime soon. Because after this comes out, I'll probably be in Donkey Kong if I even finish it by then. Um, I hope so. Um, but it is a pretty meaty game, so who knows? And then after that, then you'll be yeah, there's a lot of stuff kind of coming out pretty quickly. You got Donkey Kong, then you got the Mario Party update, and then you got the Kirby update. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of looking forward to, kind of, you know, together. And then not to mention too, I'm also kind of dabbling in some other stuff as well, like Civ 7, which actually I think I'll save that talk for next week so I can play some
Hmm.
more. And then obviously the GameCube stuff, which I really have not played too much more since last week. I just kind of threw on there. So I talked about the controller already last week, and that was kind of the thing I was most excited to talk about. But yeah, so I'll save that stuff to talk more in depth about next week. So, but Civ I think runs really well on the Switch too, especially comparatively to the original version, and it brings in a lot of features that weren't necessarily available. Well, not a lot of features, the bigger map sizes that weren't available from the Switch version as well. Um, so that stuff's all kind of nice. But I say, and the mouse controls, which I do think work really well. So yeah, I'll save that stuff to talk for next week. But at least from what I played, pretty promising. I also tried out Street Fighter 6 has a demo on the system as well, which I kind of dabbled in. It looks great. I think it's a great looking game. I do kind of like I don't know what the recommended controls for it are, but I like the modern controls because the classic controls piss me off, and they always have. So it's kind of nice to be able to do stuff without so much convolution. How do you play it? Do you usually use the modern controls or do you kind of use the classic controls?
I use classic for the most part because
Hmm.
that's kind of what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that got into it by playing modern for the first like few months, but then as he understood more, he was able to transition over to classic controls because it allowed him to have more freedom over the combos he could pull off and that sort of
Yeah,
deal. As
which
he
is what I figured.
and he really enjoyed that. I think Street Fighter 6 was like one of his first like major fighting titles that he played, and it really opened a lot for him because then he went like to Tekken 8, and then he played other fighting games as well. And he's been having a blast playing fighting games since learning on Street Fighter 6. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, I really didn't do much more than like the tutorial to kind of learn how to play it, but it looked really nice. It seemed
it's a
like the
very
demo had
good
more
game.
stuff.
I think Street Fighter 6 is the perfect game to get someone into fighting games. And seeing as though a lot of the fighting games that have come out since then have like shot themselves in the foot from being
Mhm.
really good to completely fucking over their core fan base.
Mhm.
I think Street Fighter 6 is like the only game that has succeeded at it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably at least dabble in that a little bit more. At some
I
point.
recommend it. If you do end up enjoying it, it's a $40 game, I think. So, or 60
Yes.
if you want all the DLC. So
Yeah, it's 40, and then you can get the DLC for it.
it's a very good entry point if you want to play fighting games, and it's
Mm.
not a big, price like commitment in order to do so.
No, and it's a Capcom game, so odds are it'll probably go on sale pretty regularly as well. On top of it, Capcom's usually pretty good about their sales stuff. So, um, that said, I think that's all I want to talk about this week. Like I said, I'll leave the other stuff for next week, so I'm not rehashing the same stuff over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Otherwise, the only news piece I put down there's a Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct this week.
There's a few other things I would like to talk about
Yeah,
that
I
we've.
figured there's other things, and
Yep.
or maybe even some stuff from Summer Games Fest that we did not cover from last week.
Oh, there was a lot of
Um,
stuff from Summer Games Fest, but there's too much to go through. I think I would like to just take a whole uh, episode to talk more about that stuff because yeah, that is some pretty interesting stuff. But I will say this: the MIG switch, as you may know, the cart dumper, the little like
oh
flash
yeah, yeah,
cart
yeah,
where you
yeah.
could dump your
Hmm.
own carts on the original Switch. People were able to use it last week, I think it was, and it wasn't really working. But now those same people have been banned for using it when they were testing it, banned from online play on the system,
Hmm.
which in some cases, it's the thing that happens with any kind of game. And they didn't break the whole system; they can still play it, so that's good. However, I do think that this one, it's it's a little more touch and go because a lot of the people that used it were people that were like tech people that
Hmm.
got banned from their Switch too because of it, and they were just testing tech, and they have complete proof of not using it for piracy reasons. And
Hmm.
as such, I do think at least this early into the console's lifespan is a little crazy to be handing out bans left and right already for something like that. Especially when like these people literally like showing full videos. They're like, "Here's my entire collection. Here's my here's my device I use to dump all of my games. Here's my MIG switch. Literally all of it is on the legal grounds. I made a copy of games I literally own. Here they are in person. I can hold them in my hand. I can show you I have them right now, and I just did it to test the technology to see if it worked on the Switch too." And I think it's a little crazy that people like that got banned for using this technology. Uh, and even when the technology didn't work, they still got banned. So I don't know. I feel a little conflicted about that whole element because like in some cases they didn't ban the whole console, they just banned them from online play. But in some other elements, it didn't work. So like, why did it get banned in the first place? And it was just, and also the people have proof that they owned all the games that they had on their MIG switch in the first place, and they had legal dumps and yada 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 blah blah blah. But Nintendo's gonna Nintendo, and that's how it is essentially.
Nintendo's good at Nintendo, but on the other side of it, though, it is an interesting kind of gray area that you bring it up because it's like in that case, they are legal copies, but I would imagine though that Nintendo once they are ripped like that, though, I would imagine Nintendo doesn't have any way to verify that those are legal copies on their end. They can only just be like, yeah, these are
Yeah,
not.
I'm guessing that's the same, that is the case as well. But again, they got hit with it because of using unauthorized like hardware with
Unauthorized
their
equipment.
Switch 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, the thing
that
is
leads
though,
me to
like,
think something like, we saw those Switch One like accessories and weird things that were made on Etsy and
yeah.
whatnot, or like Wish, or I guess
Mhm.
even Temu. So like, how far is this going to go? Is this going to like really hinder a lot of the third party market for accessories? Because if so, that kind of sucks a lot.
Yeah, too early to say. I mean, they let
Mhm.
you literally use like every camera under existence. So,
That's true.
uh,
That's true.
in some ways, they obviously are pretty like pretty willing to do it. But I think my big thing, I would think that their concern is that, even with the one thing, even if they are using like all legitimate copies, kind of things. Um, I would have to think though, like in terms of online play, like if you're using a copy like that, it'd be so easy to inject something extra in the code. I almost feel like it would be like this, like the sensible thing would be to ban it. Um, if there's no other way to kind of like verify the like authenticity of the game,
And
you can
and it is
verify the
possible.
authenticity with the
But I
cartridge.
will
But
say this, right?
mhm.
Now that people have been banned from
Uh huh,
using their Switch Online, I
yeah,
have a hot take.
uh huh,
I think this is going to make pirates work that much harder to crack the Switch 2, and it will come sooner because they got banned. I think that is literally going to happen. I think maybe
well, yeah,
even
those systems at this point they have every incentive to go to town. So,
exactly,
mhm.
exactly. So my thoughts are, I think those systems, they're banned from online now. They can't
Yeah.
play online. So
Mhm.
who's to say that isn't good for them? Because now Nintendo, since they're no longer allowed to go online, can't check what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that will give them even more incentive to try to create a new hack for the system. And I do think that because of this whole MIG switch debacle that just happened, I think they just opened up piracy to happen a lot sooner on the Switch 2 than it would have. I think that's literally going to happen within the next like 6 months. I
Yeah.
think someone will crack it within the next 6 months because of
I
this.
don't think it's the people are going to want to crack it. I don't think this is necessarily going to change their motivation one way or
No,
another.
but I
Like the
do
people
think
who
it's
really
going
want
to
to, really
speed
going to
up the
want to.
process.
It may. It's hard to say. We'll see. I, I'm happy it's been a week and it hasn't already gotten done. But
Well, some people have run their own code on it already. I will say that. I've seen videos of it. But
I did. But from what I read, the code that they were able to inject was not anything that made a meaningful impact in terms of pirating. From what I was reading,
no, 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 no. It's
or
just
cracking
that
or
is
anything.
what you have to understand is
Mhm.
that's the first step. That's always the first step. Getting code to run on it that's not the original intended code, that's always the first step. It doesn't even have to be them working specifically to get the code to run on it that is for piracy. Just getting any code to work on a system is the first step in emulation as well as piracy when it comes to things, essentially. I do think that, like I said, I do think this will get cracked a lot sooner rather than later now from a lot of things we're seeing.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Um, but yeah, it is interesting. So, we'll know more obviously as time goes on.
Yep. Speaking of as time goes on, I actually
Uh-huh.
mentioned something the other week, I believe it was, where we were talking about Marathon. I don't know if you saw the announcement today, but the game has now been delayed indefinitely.
Granted, we literally talked about it before the episode. Of course, I know
Yes, 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 I know
this.
you do, but I'm trying to. It's for the episode, dude. Come on,
I was
come
just
on.
teasing. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, indefinitely delayed. Yeah, obviously Sony does not have the same faith in this game that they talked about very recently. So
Yep.
yeah.
And
Um
I do think this will be the start of the cancellation of Marathon. I don't think Marathon will ever see a release.
no, I don't think so. If they had faith in it, they would be like, hey, we're delaying it from this release date to this release date or this
Yeah.
general time frame. You don't indefinitely delay something if you think that it's coming out anytime soon. So, yeah, I think that's honestly, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think this game will ever see the light of day. So I think that's the beginning of the end. They're going to start pulling things back, and it sounded like they already had so little faith in this game
Mhm.
already that they already we're not planning on doing like any marketing for it or anything. So, yeah, no, this game it's doomed already, and it hasn't even gotten to that point yet. So, yeah, R.I.P. Marathon. But who knows? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. What other news stuff you got?
Not much, honestly.
Okay.
You kind of mentioned the Donkey Kong thing a little bit, but I don't think we really talked that much about it. That there's going to be a full-on direct talking about Donkey Kong Bonanza on
Did
the
they say how
18th.
long it's gonna be? I didn't even
I
look at
don't
the
know, man.
announcement.
I'm expecting like 30 minutes or some shit, but all I know is I'm buying that fucking game, so I don't care one way or the other.
15 minutes.
Oh, okay, there it is. I don't care. I'm still buying it. It looks really good.
Yeah, I'm really. I am looking forward to it. I'm definitely gonna get it. I think my only thing is, even with the videos that I saw, because I just saw bits and pieces, when they were
Hmm.
doing the treehouse stuff. I hope that the gameplay hook that keeps you going. Like I didn't see what that is.
Oh, it's really
Um,
good. It's really good.
I mean, I know
So
it's the
I can
destructible environments and
no, no,
everything.
no, no, no. So okay. Well, first of all,
Uh-huh.
it's got like the Mario Odyssey like moons sort of element to it, where you're trying to get these specific things that are in the destructible environments,
Hmm.
that are hidden throughout the destructible environments, and you get enough to move on to the next area. And as you're going through environment after environment, you're going further and further into the Earth's crust and going further and further into this planet, and it's like these other like worlds inside worlds inside worlds inside worlds inside worlds, and it's actually like really cool. Like you do enough things to open an area so that you can go further down, and
Yeah.
that's essentially how it works. And sometimes it'll be like little hidden areas, like, oh, I found this, I don't remember what the hell it was that you're trying to get, but I found this item inside this area. Or sometimes they'll be like, oh, like Mario 64 ass shit. It's like Mario 64 ass shit from everything I've seen, where like you're trying to do this thing that makes the star appear, and then you get the star, be it fight a boss, or just find it hidden somewhere, or do like a challenge and stuff like that. And that's essentially the gameplay loop, so that you can get that, so that you can get enough, so that you can move on to the further into the core. It looks really good. It looked
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, I think at least kind of the core gameplay looks like it could be interesting. I just kind of like I said, I want to see what the loop is. So I'm sure this will explain a lot more. So I'm kind of excited to see what else is there. I think the other thing is I just want to know that the game, like the mechanic of a destructible environment's fun for a time. But how much variety is that going to give you? So those are the things I kind of want to see answered by that direct. So I'm sure they'll probably kind of look at those kind of things.
I mean,
Um,
like I said, I watched for a long time,
mhm.
and the amount of different ways to destroy the environments and the amount of gameplay elements that revolve around that is what made it already look like this is not something that's going to get boring. Like this is
Yeah,
going to be really fun the whole way through. So
I hope so. Like I said, it looks like it's interesting. It looks a lot different than their normal stuff. Um, and Donkey Kong has had a 3D game since '64, so it'll be really interesting to see how well
it's true,
they do
and I
this.
really do
Yeah.
hope this is the devs of Odyssey, because they're really fucking good.
It looks like it.
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it is.
yeah.
And
We'll
like
know for
even
sure
even
once
if
the
it
game comes
isn't,
out.
right,
Hmm.
it still has that kind of feel to it from everything I've seen.
Yeah,
If it was like Switch original, I would not even be remotely thinking about buying a Donkey Kong game. But this game looks fucking awesome.
yeah. This does not look like a game that could run on the original Switch. So
That is
I'm
not what I
definitely.
meant. What I meant is I don't think the games that released on the Switch that were Donkey Kong were as engaging or worth the price points that they were asking for them.
Oh, well, they're just like the
They
like
were
your
like Donkey
Tropical
Kong
Freeze
Country.
and
Yeah, they
Donkey
were
Kong
they were
Country
like the
Returns.
Donkey
Yeah,
Kong Country games, and I don't find as much enjoyment in those as I would something like a 3D Mario per se, and this reminds me a lot more of a 3D Mario than a Donkey Kong Country kind of game. That's what I was trying to lay out there.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I don't know. I do like the Donkey Kong Country like Returns
I
games,
have
but
to be in the mood for them, but I'm
yeah,
always in the mood for a new 3D Mario game.
I don't know. The Donkey Kong 64 is such trash. So
Well, okay, that's fair, but everything I've seen, this is not a Donkey Kong 64 kind of game.
we don't know. We don't know.
I've
Nothing.
watched 6 hours of
We
gameplay.
don't know nothing.
You
Not a
don't
single
know
thing.
nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could be okay. Although I don't know. It depends on what kind of 3D stuff it is too. Like I said, Odyssey was not my favorite compared to the other 3D Marios.
And it is mine, aside from probably Galaxy 2. So
Yeah, so it makes a difference. So we'll kind of see how that is. Also, interestingly, actually, that just reminded me too because of Galaxy 2. I don't know if you watched that video that I sent you. I think it was Good Vibes Gaming had done a video kind of about the motion controls on the Switch 2.
I have not watched it. I haven't had a chance to. I've been super busy.
Basically, a side by side comparison of like how the motion controls worked for the same game between Switch 1 and Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. I'm trying to think which ones they had done it with. I know Skyward Sword was one because obviously there's a lot of motion controls in that. So, anyways, yeah. So they it was Good Vibes Gaming, I think is what it was. So they did a side by side comparison of a bunch of different Switch games and how they ran between Switch and Switch 2, and kind of just how the motion controls held up. Because as you know, when you're playing games like anything that uses the motion controls, a lot of times they need to be kind of recalibrated and recentered. The Switch 2, at least you can watch in like the side by side video that he does, it holds those controls so much better, like significantly better. Like he did not have to recalibrate at all, and he was going back and forth between sword play and then like the weapons and then back to sword play again, because usually shaking the controller is what kind of fucks it up and it makes it kind of drift. That's kind of where it like decenters. And no, it did not seem to do it. It seemed to hold it very well, whereas comparatively you could see the Switch very quickly lost its centering. So whatever tech they're using for the motion controls, much more solid, and I think that's going to lend to more Wii ports and better Wii ports if they do decide to go down that route. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So, I'm interested to see kind of if they do take advantage of it. Because remember, that was kind of one of my predictions before the Switch 2 was they're going to have some tech in there that's going to make it a little bit easier for like ports of like older gen games. And I said that the motion controls I thought were going to be one of the limiting factors for Wii games, and I thought that they would do something to kind of help improve that, and it seems like they did. So motion controls definitely seem like they're a bit more solid than they were. And they checked them compared to for two things actually. They checked them the Joy Cons versus the Joy Cons, and they also checked the Pro Controller versus the Pro Controller, and both of them seem to hold them much better. So yeah, so there's that. But yeah, that's why Galaxy 2 had me thinking about it, because that's a big missing game from the Switch, because Mario 3D All Stars did not have Galaxy 2, and that's a great game. So hopefully we'll get that back in, and also too the Mario Kart remixes from some of the Galaxy 2 songs, phenomenal. So yeah, I hope so. Okay, that's that. Now I don't have anything else. You ready to wrap up?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well then, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to reach out to us, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. And all of our old episodes are in game-crunch.com. Brandon, any final thoughts?
Nah.
Oh, yeah. That said, I don't have any final thoughts either. My name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash of Penguin. There or on your favorite gaming console. Until next week, game on.
Game on.
In a land called Game Crunch where pixels gleam, magic realms and heroes in a dream. Every level new adventure calls. In this world, no one ever falls. Monsters lurking, treasures to find, puzzle pieces fitting in your mind. Quest to conquer, legends to write. Every turn a dazzle Crunch game on, play it all night. In this realm everything feels right. Joysticks acting, hearts on a flight. Game Crunch, game on under moonlight. From the forest to the castle gates, every corner a new twist awaits. Dragons soaring skies of cerulean, villains' plots to be undone. Battle with power-ups in your hand, dance to beats only you command. Champions rise under your command, lost in gameplay in this land. Friends together in this digital world, every move magic unfurled. Trophy stacking every gold star, reaching far, no dreams too far. Game Crunch game on, play it all night. In this realm everything feels right. Joysticks acting, hearts on a flight. Game Crunch, game on under moonlight.
I did see Marathon got delayed.
It did. Indefinitely. I'm almost positive it's going to just get canceled.
Which is funny because literally like a day ago they're like, oh no, it's not going to be like that other game. Like we have a lot of faith in it. Yeah, obviously.
Oh, the thing
like,
is, they said it's not going to be like the other game. It isn't going to be like the other game because the other game at least released.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.